There once lived a man who resided inside a game instead of reality. He was known as Hardcore Leveling Warrior. The man eventually became a god in this alternate universe. One day, the goddess within the game descended into the real world. The deity went by the name of Zero. She wiped out more than half of the human population. Hardcore Leveling Warrior returned to reality, as he was the only one capable of stopping Zero. The companions he made in the alternate realm made him cherish the real world as well. He relinquished his stats, skills, and the omnipotent status of a deity to create a timepiece that could rewind Earth's history, even if that meant he and his friends would forget each other and their memories. But it didn't matter, as long as they had a chance to live their lives to the fullest once again. Hardcore Leveling Warrior successfully reversed Earth's timeline, bringing it back to when Zero's ambitions were still contained within the game. This rewound the world by 5 years. Zero's universe, which loomed over Earth, was destroyed and dispersed throughout the galaxy in the process. Not even gods can completely erase time and history that once existed. The 5 years of Earth's lost memory hadn't fully vanished either. Instead, those recollections drifted through the cosmos along with the remnants of Zero, fragments with the ability to attract one another. The cluster of shards formed in the first 3 years was the size of an apple. However, by the 4th year, its growth accelerated drastically, expanding to a third of the moon's size. By the 5th year, all scattered fragments had converged, restoring the original physical form known as the God's Toy. Hardcore Leveling Warrior believed he had destroyed the storybook of the past, but he had merely sealed it. And now, it was about to reopen from where the tale had left off. Zero was returning home, carrying the story within. A piece of the tale plummeted toward Earth, nearing a man in an office. It whispered to him, "Hardcore Leveling Warrior." He became startled, unsure if his mind was playing tricks on him. His name was Ethan Gong, our protagonist. A co-worker noticed him daydreaming and asked again if he wanted to go to the convenience store. The female colleague's name was Sora Ko. Ethan, still puzzled by the voice, said he was full. A blonde co-worker told Sora that she would go with her, immediately sparking Ethan's interest. Her name was Ariam Lim. She stretched while mentioning to Sora that it was already that time of day. Sora asked what she meant, and Ariam explained that it was time they restocked the Kokomon bread. Ethan blushed upon hearing that Ariam also liked Kokomon. Sora and Ariam were about to leave when Ethan suddenly asked them to wait. Now he also wanted to tag along. Sora turned and questioned why he had said he didn't want to go earlier. Nervously, he claimed that his metabolism was very fast and his stomach was starting to growl. Ariam was pleased that Ethan decided to join them. Internally, Sora thought Ethan made it blatantly obvious. What a shock. He wanted to go only after Ariam said she'd join. Ethan chuckled, believing he had managed to join them in a way that seemed natural. On their way to the store, Ariam mentioned to Sora that a comet was supposed to pass through the sky that night. Sora replied that some people suspected it was actually a flying object carrying aliens. While searching for something in his pocket, Ethan called out to Ariam, saying he had something for her. Ariam was amazed by what Ethan held, while Sora remained unimpressed, wondering how anyone could possibly think of using Kokomon stickers to impress a girl. Ariam gasped, unable to believe that Ethan had a rare rainbow dragon. He offered her the sticker, having heard that she was also a collector, while Sora felt secondhand embarrassment for his attempt to win over a girl. Unfortunately, Ariam declined the offer, making Sora proud. Ethan's approach was probably the worst in history. However, Ariam soon revealed her real reason. She was a self-collector and couldn't keep anything she hadn't personally paid for. Sora sighed, realizing she was surrounded by weirdos. Ethan was easily convinced. Instead of feeling embarrassed, he revealed that he too was a self-collector who enjoyed unwrapping packs, to which Ariam agreed enthusiastically. Tired of listening to them, Sora thought they were really made for each other. She took the sticker to put an end to their chatter. Since Ethan already had another one, she saw no issue in keeping it. He didn't mind much since he had actually taken the sticker from Carter, his closest friend, hoping to gain something from it. Upon checking his phone, Ethan wondered why Carter hadn't replied to his last message yet. He must be feeling unwell or something. Suddenly, he heard the eerie voice again, calling him Hardcore Leveling Warrior. He started feeling tense, unable to understand why he kept hearing the name of his company over and over. Out of nowhere, a blue light engulfed the sky. Everyone looked up, witnessing the meteorite hurtling toward the planet. Its shape was unusual, making him wonder if it was truly a meteorite. He spotted a grotesque eye on its surface, realizing that it was staring directly at him. In that moment, the meteorite crashed, sending a wave of energy across the world. But instead of energy, it resembled streams of data spreading over the planet. Information flooded their minds as the system began configuring the human race. The system identified Ethan as someone who had completed the first playthrough of the game. Data and reality started to intertwine while Ethan remained confused, questioning whether he was trapped in a dream. A status window appeared, indicating that overpowered characters would be restricted in Phase 1. Everything suddenly came to a halt, but Ethan was still unable to relax, worried about his friend's safety. He approached Aryam and Sora, asking if they were both okay. Without warning, a status window materialized before everyone, displaying a message. It welcomed them and announced that all living creatures had been turned into game characters. No one understood what was happening. They tried to check the news for information but found nothing, while more status windows started appearing. The system informed them that they would grow stronger as they leveled up. As they progressed, they would acquire abilities to clear dungeons. If they failed, monsters would invade Earth. It finally declared that dying within the server would mean permanent death. Ethan was desperate, wondering why the tutorial was so short when their lives were at stake. The system then proclaimed that the game on Earth had officially begun, though some still believed it was just an elaborate advertisement. A quest was assigned to all players. They had to defeat a level F monster created for beginners. A small sword appeared in each player's hand as a portal opened, allowing a creature to emerge. A training dummy materialized. It might have been classified as a level F monster, but its size did not match its supposed weakness. They finally understood. There was no longer any distinction between the real and the unreal. Ethan is now taking a taxi to a remote dungeon. As he gazes through the window, he reflects on how everyone is now accustomed to opening status screens and hunting monsters in dungeons. But there's one detail that unsettles him. He was the best player in the game, yet in this real-world version he's absolutely awful. He considers himself a sub-10, a term for players who are unable to advance beyond level 10, and wonders why he had to be cursed with such a fate. He asks the taxi driver if they're close since they've been on the road for a while, to which the driver tells him to relax. The driver even adds that he should be grateful for being taken to the dungeon at such a low price. Ethan simply nods, thinking that $5,000 is still a hefty sum. He's currently on his way to be carried by others in the dungeon. He has heard of rare cases where sub-10 players manage to unlock a new class after conquering high-level dungeons, but that occurrence is exceedingly uncommon. The driver starts talking about a girl they transported a while ago who managed to obtain a new class and even joined the Player Union Guild. He continues, claiming that the girl is now famous and that the dungeon his company operates has something special. If Ethan gets a cool class, he will owe the driver a dinner. Ethan agrees, but internally, he's furious about the amount of money he had to spend just to get carried. The taxi finally arrives at a zone where a muscular guy wielding a sword and a girl are waiting for him. Suddenly, the buffed guy starts yelling at Ethan for arriving late, despite it not being his fault. That guy is Hwatong Kim, a level 54 swordsman, and the girl is Soo-young Jo, a level 47 healer. Soo-young tells Ethan to ignore Hwatong. Despite his rough demeanor, he's a reliable guy. Ethan thinks otherwise, getting a bad feeling about him. He finally heads toward the portal as Hwatong keeps yelling. Upon entering, a lizard man rushes to attack Ethan. He freezes in fear, wondering what kind of tank Hwatong is, allowing monsters to reach the back lines. Out of nowhere, the buffed guy slashes the creature. He tells Ethan to pay more attention to his surroundings since they've just cleared the first floor. However, Hwatong turns and demands Ethan pay for additional services, leaving him dumbfounded. Hwatong starts counting each time he saved Ethan's neck from a monster, totaling 5. He declares that it's $1,000 per rescue. Ethan gets enraged. He already paid to be carried, and nobody mentioned these extra charges. Hwatong smirks, saying that $5,000 is too little to be carried through the entire dungeon. With a manic grin, he warns that the second floor will be much worse, and Ethan is free to do as he pleases. Ethan is still seething, blaming himself for not trusting his initial impression of Hwatong. As time passes in the dungeon, he notices that Hwatong is deliberately allowing monsters to attack him to create artificial rescues. Ethan snaps, refusing to be taken for a fool just because he's a sub-10 player. He won't let Hwatong extort another dime from him. He threatens him, stating that he already knows his name and guild and only needs to report him to the authorities. Tired of his whining, Hwatong slams his sword into the ground. He reminds Ethan that they're still surrounded by lizardmen and that he'll die if he tries to reach the exit. He's the only one keeping Ethan alive, so he should know his place. Suddenly, Hwatong recalls where he's seen Ethan before. He bursts out laughing, finally recognizing him as the former pro gamer Ethan Gong. Ethan is about to explode but reminds himself of his friends. After the incident, Aryam developed a mysterious illness. Carter, his best friend, went missing, and Sora works multiple jobs to cover Aryam's medical expenses. He tells himself that he can't let pride get in the way. He needs to level up to help them. Ethan bows, apologizing for his outburst since he isn't in a position to argue. He starts transferring the money and Hwatong shrugs, saying he'll let it slide this time since Ethan looks desperate. Internally, Ethan vows revenge. Once he gets his class change, he'll come after him. Suddenly, a green aura envelops Ethan, increasing his stats by 10%. It was Soo-young, who reveals that she's a huge fan of his and feels ashamed for not recognizing him earlier. She confesses that she used to follow night games and even attended tournaments in person to watch him play. Ethan chuckles, thanking her for her support, as Hwatong scolds her for wasting mana. Just then, Ethan stumbles, falling into a puddle. Hwatong bursts out laughing, mocking him for getting scared by a lizard man. Ethan tries to stand, his resentment toward the buffed guy growing stronger. His nose starts bleeding, and a single drop of blood falls into the water, which suddenly begins to glow. In the reflection, he sees a red-haired warrior instead of himself. He wonders who that red-haired guy in the ornate armor is. He calls them over to look into the water, but when he asks if they see the red-haired warrior, Soo-young tells him there's nothing there. Hwatong smacks his head, saying the only red thing in the water is his blood. After a while, Hwatong halts the group, and Ethan grows anxious about what lies ahead. They have finally reached the entrance to the boss floor. Hwatong instructs Soo-young to buff him with her magic. With his enhanced stats, he leaps toward the boss room. Upon entering the battle, a python, an A-class boss, emerges. Hwatong cackles in excitement at the sight of an A-class python. Without hesitation, it launches its venomous fangs at Hwatong. Watching the beast, Ethan is awestruck by its presence and the terror an A-class boss instills. But for some reason, it feels strangely familiar. The python crashes against the ground, but its attack is abruptly halted by Hwatong's blade. Anticipating the assault, Hwatong is already prepared for the next phase. The python starts spewing venom, but it has no effect. Hwatong's buffs protect him against poison. The third phase begins, and this time, the python unleashes Toxic Shower, a high-level spell that is nearly impossible to defend against. Hwatong calls for Soo-young, instructing her to cast her Holy Shield. She activates the spell, and a bluish aura surrounds Hwatong, granting him immunity to all status effects for 1.5 seconds. Seizing the moment, he forces the python's mouth shut, driving its own fangs into its flesh. The beast writhes in agony, the sword still embedded in its skull. Hwatong jumps up, grips the sword, and with a divine slash, cleaves the python in two, concluding the battle. The toxic corpse lies motionless as Hwatong scoffs, calling it a piece of cake. He declares his job finished, but Ethan questions if he's sure about that since a status screen should have appeared after defeating the boss. He checks his class, but to his shock, there's no change. He yells in frustration, wondering why he failed to unlock a new class again. There must be a hidden boss or something, otherwise the pop-up message would have appeared. Hwatong dismisses his claim, shoving Ethan aside as he prepares to leave. Ethan shouts at him, reminding him that he was supposed to carry him until the dungeon was fully cleared. Hwatong laughs, telling him to blame his bad luck. Ethan lunges at him, trying to stop him until he unlocks his class change. As they argue, no one notices the python's corpse beginning to shift and transform. Hwatong finally breaks free from Ethan's grip, but Ethan refuses to back down. He won't stop until he gets his class change, pushing Hwatong to his breaking point. Suddenly, a Crimson System message emerges, announcing that the 10,000th dungeon boss has been vanquished. The hidden objective of defeating 10,000 bosses has been accomplished, and Phase 1 is now complete. Soo-young doesn't comprehend what the message signifies and looks alarmed since she has never encountered a system screen in red. The system window shifts, signaling that Phase 2 has commenced, and now Earth is set to hard difficulty. Out of nowhere, Ethan shouts, unable to believe what he is witnessing. The red system message alters once again, stating that the level A python has transformed into a level SS zombie dragon. A grotesque entity emerges, bearing no resemblance to the serpent it once was. The system designates it as the Vengeful Carcass, a creature devoid of intellect, driven solely by its relentless desire for vengeance. Hwatong and Soo-young are in shock, while Ethan remarks that this must be the dungeon's true boss. Hwatong urges Soo-young to enhance him again, suspecting that a double S-ranked boss appearing in a B-tier dungeon must be an error. The abomination prepares to strike with its claws. Hwatong braces himself, convinced he can deflect the blow. However, upon impact, he is hurled like a ragdoll and crashes violently against a wall. Soo-young rushes toward him, asking if he's all right. She's ready to heal him, but Hwatong stands abruptly, screaming that he doesn't want to die, then dashes toward the exit. Ethan commands him to stay since the beast is still standing, but Hwatong continues shrieking, desperate to escape. Ethan grabs him, trying to restrain him, but Hwatong retaliates with a punch. Breaking free, he bolts at full speed, smashing through the walls of the boss chamber. unintentionally triggering a rockfall that seals the exit. Wounded, a grin forms on his face for having escaped, while Soo-young collapses to the ground. She's paralyzed, tears streaming down her face, unwilling to perish like this. The monster lunges again, but Ethan snatches Soo-young before it can strike and reassures her that survival is possible as long as they stay sharp. While fleeing, Soo-young questions what two people could possibly do against such a menace, but Ethan insists he has devised a plan. They must exploit the beast's own might against it, and she must utilize her magic since her healing abilities are highly effective against the undead. The monster raises its claws, ready for another onslaught. They continue running, but the incoming strike seems too fast. Abruptly, a voice instructs Ethan to take cover behind a pillar to his right. They narrowly evade the attack. Ethan is astonished that the peculiar voice just saved their lives. But before they can catch their breath, the beast lunges again with its fangs. Ethan desperately pleads for the voice's guidance once more. The red warrior Ethan glimpsed in the puddle manifests again, advising that now is the perfect moment to unleash holy light upon the creature. Ethan relays the command to Soo-young, who casts the spell, forming a radiant cross imbued with pure energy that instantly scorches the undead's eyes. Following the voice's instructions, they rush toward the blocked exit, only to realize the barricade is thicker than they had anticipated. Ethan warns Soo-young to prepare, as the blinding effect will soon fade, and he seeks further guidance from the voice. The voice informs him that in 10 seconds, he must hide behind a pillar while Soo-young remains in her current position. The monster will inevitably target the healer, dealing a fatal blow, but in doing so, it will create a small opening for Ethan to escape. The voice solemnly adds that this is the only way for him to survive. Ethan is shaken, and Soo-young notices, asking if everything is all right. He merely responds by asking if she trusts him. She smiles faintly, saying that as long as they work together, she feels capable of accomplishing anything. The monster charges again, and Ethan directs her to run toward the wall and remain pressed against it until he gives the signal. He knows this is their sole chance to escape together. After all, Ethan isn't the type to simply choose between the options he's given. He instructs her to cast Holy Shield on the pillar directly in front of her. The structure becomes enveloped in shimmering green scales. The beast would have easily demolished it, but thanks to the spell, the pillar is now a weapon that pierces straight through the monster's skull. Soo-young beams with joy, but Ethan reminds her that their ordeal isn't over yet. They still haven't escaped the dungeon. The creature convulses in agony, thrashing violently against the walls and floor. The force of its rampage opens a passage near the exit. A glimmer of hope finally appears before them, but then a massive boulder plummets from the ceiling. Ethan reacts instantly, shoving Soo-young out of harm's way. She screams his name, frantically searching for him amidst the debris. With his last ounce of strength, Ethan urges her to run. She dashes toward him, still unable to process that half of Ethan's body has been crushed beneath the rubble. Trembling and sobbing, she asks why he sacrificed himself for her. She refuses to abandon him and prepares to heal. But Ethan yells once more, demanding that she flee, or his sacrifice will have been meaningless. Tears streaming down her face, she sprints toward the exit, vowing to return. But before she can finish her promise, additional rocks crash down, sealing the gateway once more. Ethan, lying trapped, asks the heavens why this happened when he had friends waiting for him. Exhausted, he resigns himself to his fate. Eventually, the monster devours him. Darkness engulfs everything, and a yellow message appears. Game over. However, unlike usual, the message also states that he still has one life remaining. The system initiates Ethan's second playthrough and informs him that there is saved data awaiting retrieval. Since Ethan is unconscious, the system begins loading the data without his confirmation. The old and the new Ethan begin to merge. The system identifies him as hardcore leveling warrior, and his new data starts overwriting Ethan Gong. As more information floods his mind, the system reconfigures his body. A crimson glow bursts from the monster's mouth. It suddenly opens, releasing a cascade of red data cubes throughout the chamber. Hardcore leveling warrior's body reconstructs, his stats being reassigned. His memories resurface, both the pleasant and the painful ones. At last, all data is fully loaded, officially launching Hardcore Leveling Warrior's second playthrough on the Earth server. The beast doesn't hesitate, lunging once more to swallow the reborn Ethan. Yet, he feels no fear. Instead, he smirks and declares, "It's time for you to pay for the feast you just had with my body." Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.